Hello, welcome back to Should I Be Worried, a series where I talk about my fears and then I try to figure out if I should properly be worried about them or if they're just kind of irrational. It's a hit or miss most times. Alright, so this video is about a confusingly controversial topic. And what I mean by that is I don't understand why it's controversial, because one side seems so obviously correct and the other side seems so obviously misinformed. But here we are, 2019, and we are still arguing about whether you should vaccinate your children. And, you know, I'm not gonna spend time in this video trying to tell you that you need to vaccinate your kids, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, and I know I am realistic and humble enough to know that by me saying this, you should vaccinate your children, you're not gonna suddenly be like, gosh, you know, all those other people who said, hey, vaccinate your children, I just really didn't believe them, but this random girl on the internet said it, and it just was like this light poured down on me, and I saw the truth. I know that's not gonna happen. I wish it did. If it did, you know, I'll just throw this out. Vaccinate your kids. All right, enough on that. Let's get down to what we're really here for. We're really here to figure out whether measles is something we should be afraid of. And I can tell you, yes, it scares me. I am vaccinated, but it still scares me. The CDC released a report today, April 15th, that said in the US we are at the second greatest amount of measles cases reported in a year since the disease was eliminated in our country in 2000. That number is at least, and I say at least because it keeps growing, 555 over at least 20 states. Now bear in mind, this is only accounting for January through April 11th. That means we still have 2/3 of the year left. Now there have been outbreaks, which are essentially 3 or more cases in an area, in New York, California, Michigan, New Jersey, and Washington. That's the 5th one. Currently ongoing. And what people are saying, doctors and scientists are saying, is that these cases are coming from travelers who are entering our country from other countries where measles is more common, and so that's places like Europe and Asia, you know, specifically the Philippines, Israel, Ukraine, those places where there may be kind of a little bit more of an outbreak of measles currently. This is nothing new, you know, people have been traveling internationally for decades. The thing that's new now is that we have this anti-vax movement. So before, ever since the vaccine was introduced, we've been immune to these diseases. But no, this movement has caused things to change. So what is measles? Measles is a highly infectious disease that lives in nose and throat mucus. And what happens with measles is you usually start seeing symptoms within the 7 to 14 days after being infected. And those early symptoms include cough, runny nose, fever, and red watery eyes. And then after those symptoms start, about 2 to 3 days after that, pardon if I mispronounces, you start getting Koplik spots, which are tiny little white dots that are in your throat or in your mouth. And after that, so 3 to 5 days after your symptoms start, you also start getting I guess what people mostly associate with measles are those flat red rash that starts on your hairline, and then it kind of goes down, and it can go all the way down to your feet, and you get a high fever, a fever that can reach upwards of 104 degrees Fahrenheit. What also makes measles scary is just how likely it is for a person who is not immune to it to get it if they come in contact with an infected person. So they say about 90% of people who are not immune to it, who come in contact with a person who does have measles, they will get it. They also say that if a person coughs or sneezes or does anything that kind of expels measles into the air, that can actually live in the air for 2 hours. Like I said before, back before the vaccine, the measles vaccine was introduced in the US in 1963, pretty much everyone got measles. The average death total per year was about 6,000. So, a lot of kids died, and the people who are most susceptible to it are the very young, and also the people who are 20 or older. So it's kind of one of those diseases where if you get it in your prime of life, you could still die from it. So it's very scary. It's also, when it comes to the vaccine, we talk a lot about, oh, well, everyone needs to get vaccine for their own well-being, but there's also a thing called herd immunity, whereas not everyone can get all the vaccines. If they're very young, so they're too young to get the vaccines, that's one. And then also, if they're otherwise immune compromised, so their immune system is compromised, they may not be able to get it. But those people, those susceptible people, those vulnerable people rely on everyone else to get vaccinated so that we don't see these diseases come back and pop up out of nowhere. So we're in the year 2019. Medical technology has improved. People are generally able to seek medical care and get proper medical care a little bit better in the US than they were decades ago. But even then, so people who have measles in today's age, there's still one in 4 of those people still have to be hospitalized. 1 in 1,000 of those people will get encephalitis, which is the swelling of the brain. 1 to 2 people of those 1,000 will actually die from measles. So we're talking still 1 to 2 people in every 1,000 people who get measles will still die in 2019. Other complications of measles include pneumonia, diarrhea, ear infection that results in 1 of 10 children getting permanent hearing loss. There's also what's called, and this is actually really scary because it's one of those things that you think, oh, I'm better, and then you're not. So it's called a subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. I probably totally butchered that, but it's a rare and fatal complication so it's a disease of the central nervous system that generally develops 7 to 10 years after a young person has measles. And so these kids, they seem like they fully recover, and then 7 to 10 years later they get this terrible disease that kills them. That's a reality, or a possible reality, of having measles. Finally, I will leave you with the words of Roald Dahl, who is the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, a bunch of other famous novels. He wrote in 1986 about his daughter, Olivia, who died of measles. I'll let him do the talking. Olivia, my eldest daughter, caught measles when she was 7 years old. As the illness took its usual course, I can remember reading to her often in bed and not feeling particularly alarmed about it. Then one morning, when she was well on the road to recovery, I was sitting on her bed showing her how to fashion little animals out of colored pipe cleaners, and when it came to her turn to make one herself, I noticed that her fingers and her mind were not working together, and she couldn't do anything. "Are you feeling all right?" I asked her. "I feel all sleepy," she said. In an hour, she was unconscious. In 12 hours, she was dead. The measles had turned into a terrible thing called measles encephalitis, and there was nothing the doctors could do to save her. That was 24 years ago in 1962. But even now, if a child with measles happened to develop the same deadly reaction from measles as Olivia did, there would still be nothing the doctors could do to help her. On the other hand, there's today something that parents can do to make sure that this sort of tragedy does not happen to a child of theirs. They can insist that their child is immunized against measles. I was unable to do that for Olivia in 1962 because in those days, a reliable measles vaccine had not yet been discovered. Today, a good and safe vaccine is available to every family, and all you have to do is ask your doctor to administer it. So there's more to it, but that's it. I think that's a pretty telling testament to the importance of getting the vaccine and how scary measles can be. So that's it. That's our video this week. Thank you for watching, and again, please keep coming back on Monday. There's going to be a video every Monday. I don't know what time. You can obviously tell this is late. Sorry, apologies, but it's still Monday, so I'm good.